Welcome back to the Ecamm studio and back to another edition of Meet the Ecamm fam. I am filled with energy today because I am on the other side of our Creator Camp event, which was last week. I have Doc hanging out behind the scenes in our actual live studio audience over outside where you can see, and it has been a really great week of rebuilding everything post-camp and making sure everything looks great. If you notice, I have a fun new background, which is great. We moved things around, so now we have all of our awesome Apple computers behind us and all of our cool old tech, and you can kind of see, like I'm bad at fingers, this right here. Matt Haas built these for us. So we have our little wood thumbs up so that it encourages you to give us a thumbs up on this stream. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you haven't joined us for this show before, this is the show where we introduce you to some of the incredible members of the Ecamm fam who are all of our Ecamm users. So if you're sitting in the chat and you are an Ecamm user and you've been doing it for any amount of time, even if you're brand new, you can go down into the description of this video, grab the link, and you can be a guest on an upcoming episode, because we'd love to chat with you and hear how you are creating and what you are up to. Well, quick welcomes, and then we will jump into everything. I see, as always, we have our Mr. Moderator back at home. Sad face. Hi, Paul. Thanks for hanging out with us. I see Val is here in the chat. Matt, our thumbs up is in like the perfect spot now in this video. Thank you so much for creating those. Enda trading. That's hard for me to say for some reason. Yeah, the intro music is pretty catchy. We use Epidemic Sound here in the studio. So if you're looking for some great tunes, that's one of my favorite places to get copyright-free music. Our new friend, the O Show, new to the Ecamm fam, join us on the show down in the description. He's hanging out here today. Tora's here. When we have Val saying that, someone has some energy. I'm trying to keep my energy up today because I am hanging out in the studio with Chris, and he has been creating some absolutely incredible stuff in the Ecamm space. So get your notepads or your iPads or your screenshot ability ready, because I think he is going to really blow your mind. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Chris. I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks for bringing all the energy. I kind of feel like I got to keep it up.
No. Chris is nervous, everyone. So we're gonna be nice.
No, it's great to be here. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here, especially after last week that you guys had. So I'm excited to, kind of catch the wave with you guys.
Absolutely. We'll have to convince you to come next year and join us in real life. It's always a lot of fun to be
Hmm.
together in
I
person.
think I went to an event. It wasn't a creator camp, but you guys came to San Diego at one
Mm-hmm.
point, and me and my partner came to that event. Actually, you were the first person to greet us at the door, but I was just very nervous at the time. I think we met. I saw Tom Buck. Is it
Yeah.
Tom Buck?
Yeah.
Tom. Yeah, I saw him. And I was like, wait, I've seen you on YouTube before. But yeah, it was a great event. I remember I still got the Ecamm mug as well.
I
But
love it. Well, that actually was the foundation really of Creator
yeah.
Camp came out of that event where we were like, hey, it's really fun to get to like see people who, like you said, we've only seen on YouTube, but we feel like we're friends, we feel like we're fam. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you were technically at the OG Creator Camp.
I kind of feel special. I kind of
Yeah,
feel
you
special.
should
I
feel.
am really hoping that you guys can bring the camp to like the West Coast at some point, but I do have
Hmm.
family on the East Coast, so that's another reason to go over there as well.
Awesome. Well, props. Matt is saying that your baseball cap is fire, so take that and own
Oh,
that for the
thank you.
Olympics.
My buddy makes these. A. Wilson Design.
I love it. Well, let's jump right in, and I love for people who join this show to be able to give us their elevator pitch. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you have been creating.
Yeah, yeah. So my name is Chris. Based out of SoCal, out of San Diego to be specific. I've been using Ecamm since 2020, since the pandemic. Actually, I bought it on my birthday, which it was a birthday present to myself to like try something new. And really quickly after I got it, I got the biggest itch to quit my job and career of UX design, which I was doing for like the past 6 years before that. Um, and I just went on this adventure to like, at first I thought I was going to create like a design studio, just like doing everything. But then my partner at the time, she had some friends who had a podcast, and I kind of helped them take their podcast from audio to video. I winded up picking up all the pieces slowly. I started out with like a group of like three ZB1s, and the rest was history. I was giving these clients the equivalent of like their own ESPN Sports Center.
Huh.
They were just ranking football teams. It was basically like football focused, but it was awesome. Like my mind was blown on like how much I could do without like. I don't know, I feel like most people think they need like a partnership with Netflix or some sort of big name brand company to get the things that Ecamm has, like overlays and different scenes, uh, doing multiple cameras in one production. And it was just very approachable to me. And coming from a UX background, like I love. I think I've said this before in clips. I love the WYSIWYG approach to Ecamm. What you see is what you get. Everything
Hmm.
is very drag and drop. Whereas all the other tools that exist out there, you find yourself in, endless drop down menus, and you kind of lose yourself where it's just like, wait, like, am I altering the correct setting for the correct thing? Multiple things have like the same name, and just coming to Ecamm, I was just like, wait, like I can take all these skills and things that I have from a design perspective. I know how to brand, I know how to create logos, I know how to create graphics, and I can just drag and drop that onto my video. Like I don't have to be in a timeline. I don't have to like mess with any like it blew my mind, and I was that's basically what sold it. And yeah, since then I've just been running a production company called Alive Studio. First started out as Copy and Steal Studio, um, but yeah, we do live productions. We focus on live events, webinars, video podcast. As of late, I've been trying to get like heavy into live events, and as well as consulting and like selling Ecamm templates, which I will get into a little later, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great space because I feel like it really, I mean, no surprise to you, Chris, but it's really evolved over the last, 4 or 5 years where it was, I feel like things at that point were very siloed, to use like an
Hmm.
overused marketing term, but it was like, well,
Yeah.
this is a podcast and this is a live video and this is a produced video and this is an event.
Hmm.
And now it's all just like all of those lines are blurred, and really what you can do with one tool, one studio, a certain set of
Yeah.
skills is pretty impressive. So you can absolutely, sell those services in as, as Chris is doing. Like, it is amazing how few people in the business world like know how
Hmm.
to do this. And so there's a huge opportunity for people who are jumping into the Ecamm space to not only create amazing content themselves, but to really be like ambassadors and, and experts in this space to help others, take it up a level in everything they're doing. Like, now I could bring
Yeah.
this level of quality into Zoom. I can bring it into, if I'm a speaker at someone else's meeting, like I can do
Hmm.
just about anything, which is kind of impressive. It's so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
definitely
the
speaks
crazy
to the
thing is like
software.
with pre-production, like it makes things look like magic to people. And I found like when I first started, like it was hard for me to like sell my services to people because like there was no education out there as to like what to expect. I remember the first client like I pulled out or I showed up, I produced for them. I had a live monitor, like like a screen in the space with them, so they saw me like switching angles, triggering assets. And then when the session was over, I was like, "Cool, like we're done. Can I let me airdrop you guys this file?" And they were mind blown. They were like, "Wait, what? The podcast is done? Like this doesn't make sense. Like how? Like we didn't go live. Like I saw all that on the thing, but I thought you still had to like chop it up and like
Uh,
it blew their minds. And I'm happy it's getting to the point where like everyone is pushing and educating and like
yeah.
even all the other competitors out there, like the more people are exposed to tools like Riverside and StreamYard, it
Yeah.
opens up the gateway. And then like you stumble into Ecamm and you're like, whoa, like this is like the most extreme powerful version of all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're sort of, break out of kind of the templates and really can let your creativity take control, which is absolutely
Exactly.
incredible. And again, like it's funny that even people who so I see all you Ecamm fan people because you're always like, oh, I'm not all that creative, and I'm like doing the best that I can with the software. And then we had this event, and we had Chris. We had people who came in and we challenged them with coming up with like a team name and a crest and a chant, and the competition was fierce. Like I would buy merch from all of these like
That's
pretend
awesome.
companies and groups that people buy. So
That's
I
awesome.
think you're right in it there's a ton of tools out there that are really like helping kind of democratize the entire experience. And then, as you said, like once you figure out what you want to do and you sort of see all the opportunity that's out there, Ecamm gives you a really great chance, really an opportunity to like really start playing and really start creating. So I know you have like a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm going to switch over to like no graphics to let you show some of the work that you've been doing because I think it's going to be really inspiring for people. So are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah. I
All
can
right.
share my screen right now. So I'll just here, and I can put my little talking head
Look at
overlay.
that, the power of
So yeah.
Ecamm.
So this is my website over here. Where's my mouse cursor? Uh, I lost my mouse.
Here
All
we
right,
go.
there we go.
Na, na.
So
Oh,
this
here
is
we go.
just my website here, where I offer my services. I can get into like some examples of shows that I've done in the past.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think I have all of these muted, but this is an example of like an MMA podcast that I did,
Mm-hmm.
where they went live every Monday at a certain time. Sadly, the show no longer exists anymore because there was a difference of opinions between the hosts.
Oh, that's too bad.
But I think it was probably some of my best work in regards to like production. Um, Everything you're seeing here is done by me in terms of like the intros, outros, and basically it was
Wow.
just a show format where they were just reacting to the fights. If you notice, like this is where the sim, like where I went with my template that I'm selling. But essentially,
Wow,
it's
like
harder
the
to scan
color of
on this one.
their studios is so cool. It's so engaging. I love it.
Yeah, like the cool thing with this one is that Hendo himself, he actually owns a studio in San Diego, so we filmed at his location. But yeah, I had like these little segments where like Hendo himself would like feel hot about a certain topic. So like we had this segment called Get It Off Your Chest, and like we would put these banners in, and like alarms would like raise in from an audio perspective, and like he would just yell at the camera as to like what happened that previous event. What else? Here. It's hard to like with Dropbox.
No, you're
Being these
good.
are
You're
no
good.
longer on YouTube. But we would also have like scenes where like I would just screen share and show like the fight card and the results. I think in this episode, I also had a moment where like I was using Snapchat filters. And like if ever something funny happened, like I could add a Snapchat filter to like one of their faces, like a sad face or a happy face, things like that. I also gave them the ability to like basically pick on fights. So like the fights that were coming the next week, they could pick who they thought was going to win or lose. Yeah, it seems like Dropbox isn't the
No,
best
you're
place
good.
for this one.
You're
But
totally good. So
so
were you, just so that
uh, what's up?
everyone knows and understands, so for in this instance, were you in the like in the production seat? So like you were the one who was actually like creating it behind the scenes. So they were just focused on
Yeah.
getting the content out there. This is, I
Yep.
think, really important for a lot of Ecamm fam to really understand, is that the power of having a producer, whether you are the producer behind the scenes or you work with a producer, is really incredible, because often when you're doing it all by yourself, which many of us do, you have a plan and you've laid it all out, and and you can do a lot by yourself, absolutely, but there is something to be said about someone who's able to react really quickly while you're talking. Like if I had someone producing this show right now, I could have someone kind of behind the scenes putting up cool graphics, as Chris was giving these examples, so that I could just focus on asking questions and interacting with the content itself. So I think it's just really important for people to understand that like there's different levels of what's possible. It doesn't change the
Hmm.
cost or the tools or the skills that you need, but there's different levels of what you can do. So if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, I'm doing this for myself, you could certainly consider working into the world of production and work with clients in the way that Chris is doing. So yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to,
And
but it's really
it's
cool to see like
no,
that you
no.
can add those graphics.
I love that topic because it really puts your talent in a space where they can be their best selves and
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about it. And then you throw in something like having a confidence monitor where like
Mm-hmm.
everything you're producing is being shown in front of them on a display. It
Yeah.
really like gamifies the whole experience for them. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, like they're talking to the TV as the TV is like the audience. You get me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
In this case, I was kind of like the voice in the background. So like I would like have like little things. They would also ask me questions, and I would be the guy to like go on Google and search up something that I didn't have queued up. You get me? Um, but yeah, let me. What else? Another example of a show that I did was called Hot Dabs. Um, Essentially, this was a show. The guy was inspired by Hot Ones, and he has his own cannabis company, and essentially he sells like concentrated cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we created this whole intro for him. Basically, it's a show where you interview. He interviews other like CEOs of weed companies, and then they smoke uh, higher temperatures of dabs throughout the interview, similar to like Hot Ones, where you take hotter wings throughout the episode. Um, but the cool thing was just the different angles that we had. We gave him like his own version of like a QVC camera where he could like point to something on the table and we would use his phone camera to like zoom into that. We had different like live screen shares. So this is him sharing from his phone.
Oh,
And again, all this
fun.
is being done live. We had the moving background. I come from a design background, so I pay attention to just like, you know, design brand. I kind of steered the branding for this for both the projects that you saw. All the branding was done by me, and yeah, like just creating things that are very dynamic. I'm trying to find an example here. So this was like his QVC cam, where
Oh,
we just
cool.
had this camera parked up.
Yeah.
Um, what else?
I think this is neat too,
And then,
because I love, like, I feel like sometimes and I'm super guilty of this, but like overdo it. Like with so many, backgrounds and like all these different things. And I love that this is a really simple design, but really intentional. Like you have, just the line kind of between the two of them, but then you have different camera angles. And then you're able to play around with like what you did when you brought up, his phone and being able to show it. Like it, you're almost giving more love to the various camera angles and the content experience than the graphics, which I think is important for people to, again, Ecamm, you can do anything with it, but sometimes we can
Mm-hmm.
overdo it with so many different like graphics and transitions and all these different things that we lose sort of the professionalism and the engaging nature of the content itself. So I think this is really smart. Like they're together in the same space, but you're able to make it
Mm-hmm.
feel like they were in different spaces, have different camera angles to be able to bring it in that way. Like it's well produced and very like simple and intentional in its design. So I think it's really cool to see. Like I love this view, for example, where you have like a logo in the middle and either person on each side. That's clever.
No, thank you, thank you. When I learned about like camera things and like 3-point lighting and like
Yeah.
flowing, with shining colors on the wall rather than shining them on the person, like it's all
Yep.
like lessons that you learn the hard way. But the minute they start to become second nature and they compound, like you just realize that a lot of you can achieve a lot with just really good camera angles and then being really intentional with your scenes, like what you said. You don't have to have a moving background or a scene for everything. I'm not a big fan of doing like thick borders if like my camera angle already looks great.
Yeah.
Like I love your new backdrop that you have behind you. I think that is sick. Like I would open that up. You know what I mean? Like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what else? This was an example of a CEO podcast. Her name is Victoria Washington, and basically, it's just a 3-point shoot. But what we did was to keep things dynamic. Like we have multiple angles of her, and then there is also a scene here where like I go to black and white here,
Oh,
and
fun.
this is mainly when she's talking, and like if ever she's like talking about something heavy, like a past moment, or like she's like looking inward, I would switch to the scene and it would just change up the whole dynamic of what she was on. She went live on YouTube for this, but she also went live simultaneously to a Zoom group of like 300 people that were all engaging with this, and like the people on Zoom were able to like ask her questions, whereas everyone else on YouTube was just watching it. But this was a cool. I think we filmed like we filmed like 8 episodes in 2.5 days. It was a lot
Wow.
of work on her end, and I think it was a huge learning process. But yeah, we did things like I think this is when I first played around with like triggering assets that are like see-through assets. So that Victoria Washington CEO founder,
Yeah.
that was an asset that I created in Final Cut, and then I converted the file to a WebM
A
file
WebM. Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
could have the sound and still be transparent. I think I learned that either from a Doc Rock video or
Shout out to Doc
from, I
Rock.
think I watched a Doc Rock video that sent me to another video where like I was using a Shutter encoder. Game changer. If you have Shutter encoder, you can take any sort of templates that you have on Final Cut and you can create these really cool like overlays for Ecamm that go beyond just a shape sliding in. You get me?
Yeah.
Um, and then lastly, this is a cool one here that I did called zeksworld. This is a guy he's essentially my video editor. And he has this podcast where he interviews his clients that he shoots music videos with. And this one is very visual based. I have this scene where it's like them behind the couch,
Oh, I love
but you also
that.
have their faces there.
Yeah.
And then whenever they watch anything on that television screen, I also had that television screen in my feed. So I could like do
Oh, you are giving
something.
me such good ideas even for my own show because I have a movie review podcast and like this kind of thing would be such a fun like angle. Like this is very clever like how you are using different camera angles, and something I just don't often think about. I've gotten so used to like just the camera's pointed at me, and so this is great. This is super inspiring.
Yeah. Um, and then last but not least, I've done a live parade with Ecamm.
Oh
So
my
we did a
gosh.
parade in Ocean Beach, California, where they have a Christmas parade and they just come down. I created this intro for it. It's called Jingle All The Waves. And essentially, I set all the cameras up outside. I think I even had access to like Mevo cameras that were like
Oh
attached to
yeah.
a hotel. Um, but yeah, it was me, another shooter who was on like a live tripod, and he was just panning down the street, looking at all the floats come down. We had this angle, which was like the host and like the sunset behind them. And to be honest, all of this was streamed on someone's hotspot.
See, it is
I was
amazing
so
what you can pull
nervous.
off if you're gutsy enough, I suppose, if you're willing to
Bro,
take a
I was
bet.
so scared. I was so scared. Yeah, I made sure like he had everything closed on that phone. He had 100% battery and it was plugged in. But we pulled it off, and I was very surprised. The only thing I wasn't proud about this project was I didn't have control of audio. Yeah, I was promised that I would get a clean
Uh,
feed,
yeah.
and then the audio feed that they gave me was the same feed that they were using to spit out on the speakers.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
audio situation wasn't the best, but from a visual standpoint, I was super proud of this. Like, this was like me giving them their own version of a Macy's Day Parade. I think we even have a moment here where like we did a countdown for the tree lighting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now I'm
Oh
excited
wait,
for the
that's
holidays.
uh, yeah, where we did like this
Oh, that's so
countdown for
fun.
the tree lighting. And I just took assets from like the logo and like spread them around the scene. This probably isn't the best instance. Oh wait, I'm covering myself. I get moving myself. But yeah, I had the graphic like overlaid there. Um, but yeah, this is the kind of things that I've done with Ecamm in the past. I think yeah, that's about it.
That
I'll
is
go back to
incredible.
talking and shop.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
I think again this is like really neat for people to get to see, and hopefully you are all taking some notes or screenshots. I definitely have. But I think it's again it's really important to understand that if you can get really great at your planning and thinking through how you want it to look and feel and how you want to get the content across, you can save yourself a ton of time in the on the editing side. You know, even if you're not
mhm.
live streaming, like almost I think everything that you showed us, Chris, was live or in that kind of live to tape format, right?
Everything
So
was done live or produced live. Yep.
exactly. And so like think about that. Like the one video where it was the CEO file and it went from different camera angles and then into black and white. Like all of that used to be stuff that it would take a ton of time in post production to be, thinking through like, oh well, now we want it to like look like this. We want to cut to a different angle. We need to find that footage and cut it in. And and as you were saying, like the timeline editor, you don't have to do that anymore. And
Mhm.
you can get really clever with what you create yourself and what you are offering and creating for clients. So I think it's absolutely amazing what you do. How do you think through like as you're thinking through like projects and pitching clients? So you said you went from a UX design background. What was the
Mhm.
the process of like, oh hey, I can do this, and how did you approach thinking through like how to sell yourself and how to pitch new clients and bring them on? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, that's still something I'm learning every
Hmm.
day. To be honest, like
Yeah,
it has gotten easier as the education goes out there and people understand what's possible.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I like it's a double-edged sword because like though you can do all of this for them and no one's aware that like that is possible,
Yeah.
there's also another component to creating content, which is the results part of things,
Hmm.
which is just can you move the needle for it. And I
Yeah.
think like I'm starting to learn like that tends to be more important for people who are
Hmm.
making the buying decision.
Sure.
Um, but there are still some clients that I can win over by just showing them, look, like this is what we can do, and now you can save time editing and save time doing all those other things. But yeah, like there's a lot to like. There's a lot of people that just want it all done for them, and like
Yeah.
they don't want to even think about it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard to do that without that person's like input, without having them there.
Hmm.
Um, like I always say, like when you're done filming with us, like you're that much closer. Like rather than looking at your full content with just like the perspective of just like, oh, I got to edit this now and I got to do this. It's more of like now I can look at this and be like, all right, now what's a good clip? You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's like you're ahead of the process. You get me? Like you've
Yeah.
saved X amount of time. I think I was watching Marquise MKBHD,
Yeah.
something about like their podcast, the Waveform podcast. He
Uh-huh.
says it takes his team, like each person is spending like 14 hours on
Wow.
an episode.
Yeah.
And that's one person just doing the thumbnail. That's one person just doing the audio version. That's one person doing the video version.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things that he does from a video perspective that could be done live. Like he does games and trivia and things like that. And like all that could be done live, and like he can save himself so much time. Um, so yeah, I'm sorry, I went on rambling after that, but
No, that
I
I
think
think
that's
that's a
that's
really
something
important
I'm.
point though too. Like as you're thinking that through and as you're thinking through like the financial investment, again, either if you're, if you're creating this by yourself or if you're doing it for clients, the amount of time matters. Like it matters from a
Mhm.
financial standpoint. So really think through like what per hour, is the cost for each of these tasks, right? Like how much does it cost to,
Yeah.
record the video per hour? How much does it cost to edit the video per hour? Like these are all, these are all jobs, and they have a financial, incentive towards them. So you should be
Yeah.
definitely be thinking that through. Like if you are saving yourself or someone else 14 or 15 hours of time, like assign a financial number to that so that you're able to really think through like you know what is that worth, making that shift over into that space. You're also
Yeah.
doing, which I think is worth bringing up, because we get a lot of questions about this at Ecamm. So are it looks like from what you showed, the mass majority of projects that you're working on, you are in a controlled space where like you are producing it on site with with
Mhm.
talent, like with the people who are. So are you ever doing things where you are remote producing, or do you prefer to be in person, not as reliant on the internet and all the other remote guest
I,
challenges?
I have done remote producing before. It is something that I'm now like as I shift in consulting and like shifting, into other things. It's something I do want to pay more attention to. I've done it in the past where I helped someone build out their own course, and
Oh, cool.
essentially the client was in Miami, I was in San Diego, and I just directed them to, buy what equipment. So I told them to buy a ZV-1. I
Hmm.
told them to buy a Shure mic,
Hmm.
and basically, I had the person call in on one laptop where they were using their mic and their camera,
Mm.
and then use a separate laptop to call
Mm.
in and share
Mm.
your screen,
Smart.
so that I can switch from your camera to your screen. And
Yeah.
then basically, we built their course by them just talking in front of their camera,
Wow.
me switching to their presentation, going over their presentation. We kind of had like a mix of three scenes. So we had like talking head, side by
Yeah.
side, and then one where it was just like the screen, like their presentation, and like them floating on the bottom right. And I think we filmed for like a whole, like maybe a week straight, like 4 hour days each, and we banged out a course. I forget how long the course was,
Wow.
but it was awesome. It was called Finances Demystified.
Oh, cool.
Um, but yeah, so I have done remote recording, something I definitely want to do more of. This just it's a little more like it's hard to like have someone like set up the camera the exact right way that you want.
Yeah.
But there are some like things, like don't have the window behind you, use the window light rather than that,
Yeah.
fill your background with things that make sense. So in this case, like she kept like trying to like show the fact that she was in a high rise and wanted to show like all of Miami. And I was like, one, that's all blown out, and two, like I think people would rather want to see you in your
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
and things of that sort.
Yeah, you could fill
So
that in
you
with
can,
B-roll or whatever. Like, that.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, that was a great experience. But yeah, I definitely like in studio shoots. As of late, I have been messing around with like live events, live performances. I'm expected to do this parade again this year. Now that I have some new equipment as a part of my stable, I'm really excited to, push the boundaries. Like I've started to mess with Teradecks and like doing wireless,
oh,
like
cool.
an actual wireless person with the shoulder rig walking through.
Yeah.
I saw you guys did an example of that during the Ecamm camp. I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
someone grab the camera and walk through, and I was like, yes, like I'm not the only one doing it.
No, it's
And
becoming
then,
more and more popular. Even at the events that we've been going to last year and this year, there's like a big movement towards like, okay, now that we've all, well, not all, but like now that many of us have created these kinds of, great studio spaces where we live and where we work, but what do we do to maintain that same level of quality when we're on the road, we're at events, we still want to be able to deliver on our, on our podcasts, on our shows, and all the different video projects we're working on. So there is, I think, a movement both from the companies that are creating the technology and the gear, as well as just the content creators on like, no, we need it to be like, smaller, more mobile, easy to travel with, lighter weight, but still deliver on all
mhm.
of the, the quality that we expect. So it's neat to see like there's a lot of really amazing updates coming out of a lot of these larger companies where things are getting a lot easier to just, toss in your bag and bring with
Yeah,
you to all these different all these different
and
events or
if
out on different shoots.
yeah, no, and it feels like this idea of like live production is even catching on like in other ways, like with what Apple just recently did with the iPad being able to
Absolutely.
wirelessly control iPhones and things like that. And then even Rode with their new
Yeah.
Rode video switcher. I had no idea that the new Rode video switcher allows you to trigger
Yeah.
assets and
Yeah.
like do overlays.
Yeah.
I that blows my mind. Like I still it looks confusing to me because it's like a button interface, and I like my WYSIWYG of like drag and drop. Um, but no,
Yeah.
it's crazy to see that these things are turning. Like I can only imagine that Apple is trying to work on some way. I can't imagine like where they have the equivalent of like their A1 chip for like their
Yeah.
privacy, where it's like they start to sell that functionality to camera manufacturers. Where like Sony,
Yeah.
like you can see your Sony feed on your iPad natively because it
That
has
would
this
be
Apple
so
chip in it.
cool. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, we're living in a
Yeah.
really dope time.
No excuses. There's no, it's
No.
amazing what we can do for less and less and less money too, which is incredible. Like this, again,
Hmm.
Doc has said this from like the moment I met him, that is, this used to be millions of dollars in technology. And now we're like, people are like, oh, wow, a couple $100. And you're like, okay, that's nothing compared to what a
Yeah,
lot of this
it's
used to
it's
cost.
it's not. You're looking
Yeah.
at switchboards that are like the cost of like houses and things
Houses.
like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I produced a live event at a conference center the other day, and like I was there set up with my stream deck and my laptop, and like the dude next to me was just on this humongous switchboard managing audio, and the next guy next to him was on this other switchboard just managing lights, and I felt like so like I felt like I wasn't like producing, but my work was being shown on like the screen in the conference center, and I was doing I was flexing with
I
with
love
my
it.
stream deck.
I love it.
um,
Tora's got a great question, so I want to make sure I catch it. Tora asks, "Are you talking about are you taking your equipment each time, or do the on-site clients have all of their equipment and you just plug them with your laptop?" This is a great question, Tora. Yeah, are you
yeah.
carrying everything with you, or is the expectation that clients need to listen to like your gear list or your gear recommendations and make those upgrades?
Oh no, my I travel with all of my equipment. I have everything in like my SKB cases. I've got my
Chris is for
cameras
real,
usually
real guys.
start
Look
in
at
that
this.
one. I don't use these tripods here, and I'm like lighting everything with aperture minis, but I travel with everything that I need from an audio, lighting, and camera perspective. I've done everything upwards to like 6 camera shoots before.
Wow.
Today I'm running a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 camera shoot. So like Yeah.
That
I
is
travel
incredible.
with everything. Um, but that said, I am trying to get into the consulting space
Cool.
where, people can learn to do this themselves. Because the one thing I will say with YouTube that I've learned is like, especially if you're going live, everything is like a drop in a bucket. And unless you find a client who can afford to have you on a daily basis to do that live content, it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
I found when I first started off, like, I took on clients very fast, and it was really easy for the client to feel like they were going to blow up. It was really easy for the client to like look at the quality of work and be like, "Oh man, like this is better than ESPN. This is better than XYZ." You put the name in. But the truth is just in order for you to gain an audience, you need consistency. You need to be there same time, same day, and show up. And not everybody can afford to start out and pay for services like that. So that's why I'm getting into this consulting space
Yeah.
and trying to offer lighter weight offerings. So, like, I just launched an in person masterclass a couple of weeks ago.
Awesome.
Haven't really been pushing it because I've been working on like other templates, but my goal is to push it where like it is me coming to you with all of my equipment, and I encourage the person that I'm working with to bring anything that they have, where I set up for whatever they're doing, whether it's a podcast, a show, music, and then I plug their equipment into my mix, and then we subtract from that. And everything else that you don't have, you now have a detailed list of what you need to buy to
Wow.
accomplish what we're getting there. And then
That's
you can also
awesome.
use that day to produce content as well, where it's like hands on, where I'm like hovering over you, helping you set up the Stream Deck, helping you set up Ecamm. And then eventually I want to do like group classes where I do something similar to what you guys did at Ecamm Camp, where it's just like setting up in front of a group of people and having people come up and just be like, hey, like, here's my camera. Let's plug it into the mix. I want to learn. But yeah, that consistency part is real. It was really
Yeah.
like
Say it
I
again.
had a
The
lot
people
of
in the back.
moments. I had a lot of moments where I worked with clients, and they feel amazed by the work, and then they post it, and then they get 8 views on something
Yeah.
that looks amazing, and then we're having that hard conversation of like it's not going to happen overnight. Like
It's not gonna, yeah, it's not gonna happen overnight, and it takes, yeah, it's, I mean, it's an equal mix, right, of like hard work, consistency, and a little bit of luck. Like
Mhm.
you've got to show up, you got to work hard, and you got to keep showing up over and over and over again. So
Yeah,
it is definitely
yeah.
important for people to know that. Well, lots of fire emojis for you from the Ecamm fam. This man was
Thank you.
nervous here, see, and we all made him feel really comfy. And you have nothing to be nervous about. This has been like incredible.
Thank
So
you.
if you are watching with us now or in the replay later, Chris's information on everything he does it for Studio Alive, is that, am I saying it right? All right,
A
is
live
Alive
studio.
Studios is in the
Yeah.
description below. So definitely check that out and and connect with Chris and learn more about what he's up to, because I think we could all learn a lot from everyone's different experience and from the different kinds of things that people are doing. So thank you for taking your
Yeah.
time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, I'm just scrolling
Um,
through to make sure I'm not missing any other questions. All right, yeah, I'm caught up. So, what's next for you, Chris? What's the next big project that you're working on, or something you're excited about? You just said you're working on your new course and some of the consulting stuff that you're doing. Is there another big project you're looking forward to other than the parade?
yeah, yeah. No, I'm working on. I'm trying to create templates. I was actually inspired by
Mm-hmm.
Anna and Gil, who do the ENN news, and I
Unfold
saw that they
CNN,
were
yeah,
creating templates. And yeah, like like I see that there's a market out there, especially when it comes to like OBS. There are tons of people who like
yeah,
buy these packs
yep,
on Etsy and things like that, and I would love to create like a store of my own for
yeah,
Ecamm templates that is as trustworthy as anyone buying something from like Motion Array or
yeah,
motionvfx.com. So my goal is to like provide these really in-depth Ecamm templates where like it's just plug and play, and they come with their own Stream Deck profile.
yeah.
The first one that I'm doing now is around fight companion watch
Oh yeah,
parties.
you want to
We were
do you
just
want to
talking
show? Want to
about
give a
it.
teaser?
Yeah, Yeah,
Highlight
yeah,
scene
yeah.
overview.
That's probably, should I just run through the scenes maybe?
Sure,
Maybe
yeah,
I can
let's
run
do
through
it.
the scenes. So yeah, here are some of the scenes, and I can show you really quickly. So if I do my starting soon, and then if I bring up my phone. So like I have these scenes, this is the Stream Deck profile that I designed for it.
Awesome. I love it.
Um,
I
but
adore
you have
these
like
little
little
guys.
cameras.
Yeah.
I have these little 3D printed figures in the back. But yeah, it's imagine watching. Oh no, what happened back
There we go.
there?
There we go. We're good.
Um, Hold on. I think my camera's turned off on me,
No, you're
and
good.
I
You're good.
know I know why. I knew why. It's
So you were
because
doing too well, and the internet gods were like, no.
my I have my cameras plugged in through DTAP batteries, and for some reason, the DTAP needs to be like every time I turn my camera on and off, I need
Uh-huh.
to unplug and plug the DTAP battery in
Oh.
manually.
Of course, I love that we're on a
Like
countdown
whenever
timer scene because it's like you have 19 seconds to figure it
oh,
out.
sorry,
16 seconds.
my bad. So, all right, the best way to probably show this is
Sure.
to do my here. I think I got it. I will just do if I go to live demo mode. Does that show? Yes, it does. All right, awesome.
There you go.
So
Woohoo!
yeah, I built out this template. Essentially, it's for people to watch fights together.
Awesome.
I have these scenes that come in with instructions. My camera angle would be up there. In this case, like, uh, let's see. Yeah, like scenes set up for 3 cameras,
Yeah.
4 cameras. I have this idea of like people can place their logo in the
Yeah.
place.
Love.
Everything's broken down by cameras. You have your social feed, which can show like your comments, and then you would have
Yeah.
your camera on the right below. If I want to take this to autofocus, boom. Sorry. Um, so what else? We have our safe screen share scene. So if someone was watching the fight with someone and they wanted to watch some copyright content, um, why isn't this? Oh no, that's my screen share. This is my safe screen share. Sorry about that.
There you go.
But if someone wanted to watch the fight and have it blurred,
Oh,
essentially that is done for everything that's done in camera A, like using the
perfect.
AB
Yeah.
cameras. So
Yep.
camera A is always the blurred angle. That is where you would put your copyright content at. Oh yeah, that scene was working. So in this case, like this would be the action. You would have the round that they're fighting in. You would have the fighters, and I even have the fighters loaded in their own files, all organized. I have avatars for when we don't know who the fighter is. What else? I have the rounds laid out here neatly. I try to include instructions with everything. You can just hide those instruction panels whenever you're done. Just giving like little tidbits and hints on how to operate. Also, I have this like live betting component. So let's say you're looking at the fight card and like you think, hold on, this one, you're looking at the fight card, you think someone's going to win, we can trigger these live betting assets. And let's
This is so
say,
fun.
the
Yeah.
person in the bottom and the person on the left are like the orange chip. This person thinks this person's going to win, so I'll put the chip there. My bad. This, I'm not holding option. So if you hold option while you drag, you create a duplicate, um, following my own instructions. um, and then yeah, like you can start to vote, and it's just gamifying the experience where like
Yeah.
this person thinks that person's going to win, that person thinks that person's going to win. None of this is like tied to it, so like you definitely have to like lock the screen share you're doing in place, and then you can hide all the assets when you're
Sure.
done. um what else do I have like the be right back
Oh,
soon.
I still need to create one of
Just
those. Every
the
time I see one, I'm like, darn it, I haven't done that yet.
thank you for watching scene. Um, what else? Is there anything I'm missing? And then lastly, like little niceties, like having a like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
Yeah.
where I'm at with this template right now is I'm currently in the process of working on like a PDF of instructions, where where someone can easily come in, you know, download the fonts that I'm using, open up the Ecamm profile, and then open up the Stream Deck profile and just start sliding things into place.
Yeah.
The idea is you would, look at your scenes here, you would choose which ones you want to go with, and you would sandwich them in between the starting soon and the thank you for watching
I love it. I
scene
love the
down.
organization. This is awesome.
Um, and delete that. But I do have some examples here of like what it would look like for people who wanted to like change it up based on like being Ecamm is customizable. This is what it looked like if these guys from Flagrant You Get Me bought my
Yeah.
template and how they adjusted for their what it would look like if Joe Rogan bought my template and was watching the fight, like Impulsive bought my thing. I chose people that tend to watch fights and like
Yeah.
usually people are creating content where like it's just them on camera and it's just a timer showing you what round it is. And
Yeah.
like you're to like figure out who's fighting, where they're at. You get me? Like you kind of have to sync up the pay-per-view on your own end to kind
Mm-hmm.
of in with them. Whereas this is more of an interactive experience. We did talk about like the idea, and thankfully, like I got to speak with you and Doc Rock before this. I may need to change how I position this. Um, but yeah, like the goal is not to encourage people to go live. The goal is to encourage people to record after the fact, and whenever they want to watch copyrighted content, use that scene and use camera A to
Yeah.
share that copyrighted content. If you're just
Yeah.
going to share a website, cool, just share the website. Like we'll have there's a regular scene for that. But yeah, my goal is to sell templates like this. Still trying to find like what is the proper price point for something like this.
Mm.
I feel like it's a lot of work but it's also like there's still work that has to be done on the person's end to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's customizable. Yeah. There are, you could definitely take a look at, so Luria at Live Streaming Pros, she sells like template packs for Ecamm and for other platforms. There are some out there that might give you some ideas on on pricing. They're a little bit different than what you're doing, but probably close enough that I could give you some ideas there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I wanted to point out from a hardware
Sure.
perspective that
Yeah.
really like changed the game for me.
Oh, definitely.
And it's interesting that I don't see more people talking about it.
Mm.
It's I've been using the not Elgato, what is it? The Decklink from Blackmagic.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I have this running on a PCIe expansion box in here. And essentially, there's a chip in here that has the like HDMI outs. Oh, my bad. Probably the best way to show this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my HDMIs are all back there. And I'm getting up to four 4K cameras up to
Wow.
60 frames per second
That's
with
great.
that. Which
Decklink, if
I
you're
don't know why
watching and
most
you're like,
people
what is
aren't
that?
talking about this.
Yeah.
Um, it's been the crazy thing is that chip has been out since 2018. Like
Crazy.
that blows my mind. And like they have all the other things like Decklink. Rode just came out with their new one, but they're still limiting you at 1080p. Um, Question: when you connect the Rode new video switcher to Ecamm, do you have access to all of the individual camera feeds, or is it still just one camera feed coming in as Rode, and you have to switch that manually?
Oh gosh, I can't answer that, but I'm sure that Doc and Jeremy and there's a couple people in the chat that absolutely can. I haven't played with it enough,
Yeah.
or I don't think I played with that one at all actually, so I can't speak to the details. But
Mm.
yeah, it is amazing. Like really thinking through the right gear for the job. So it's, we Ecamm fam we all need to take a moment and appreciate this about ourselves. But there's like some people who shouldn't buy all of the gear and are buying all of the gear and like are not focusing on like the content and the scenes and like the foundational parts of what they should be doing. Then there's some
Mhm.
people who are like don't have the right gear that they need because they like don't know it exists, so they don't think so it where the gear and the tech sometimes I think can get it's the easiest thing to recommend and to suggest back and forth, but really pay attention to like, is that what makes sense for you? So, and for your projects and for
Yep.
what you're working on. So there we go. Jeremy,
Yeah. For
Jeremy's
me,
answering you.
it's a life.
You get the one is the answer to your
Oh.
question. Ecamm sees it as
Yeah.
one source.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah. See, like that's so restrictive for me. Like it almost like they're putting you in their walled garden of just like, oh, you can only play with your camera feeds there. But it's just
Yeah.
like with this tool, I can use those feeds anywhere,
Yeah.
across any digital tool that I'm using. So that's been a life changer for me. I remember before this, I was constantly using cam links, and I was
Uh-huh.
plugging them into CalDigit,
Yep.
these sort of
Yep.
CalDigit things here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was overloading my inputs and outputs, and you get choppy footage and you don't know what's going on. And like you'll set things up one day where they work perfectly and like
And then
everything
they
is in its
don't
right
the
thing, and
next.
then you
Yep.
turn on and off your computer, and
Yep.
now you got to play Where's Waldo with which port is going to work for you and not make
Yep.
my footage lagging. I got
Yeah.
4 camera feeds at 4K going through one USB-C wire, and none of the
Wow.
stress is being put on my computer. And now I can even double my cameras by now plugging in extra cam links. This thing also has two, another USB-C wire, which I could have 5 cameras on this one thing, where it is the 5 with 4 cameras through it and then one cam link through it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get
They're,
me? Like,
yeah.
plus it's 1080p, and the Decklink gives you
Yeah.
4K for something that
Exactly.
was designed in 2018. Like crazy. um, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I remember the days of just like even prior to doing the cam link, I was doing just the USB transfer, like the USB
Yeah.
mode for like the
Yeah.
ZV-1s, and
Yeah.
even that's a nightmare at times.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. It's all about finding the right equipment for what it is you're doing. Most people could just survive with like one cam link,
Yep.
and then they could have their live or top down camera be their
Mm-hmm.
phone via continuity.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it's all about, again, it's about the reps, it's about putting in the
Yep.
time, it's about getting to episode 100 and not even realizing it.
Oh,
You know
it
what I mean?
flies. It fly when you are sitting there creating. It flies. We're nearing episode 100 on the flow, and Doc and I were just saying like we blink, we blink,
Yeah.
and it's here. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on today and for being flexible. As I know you signed up, and I was like, oh no, that's right in the middle of camp. So
It's
thank
all
you
good.
for being flexible with me, and I hope that we can chat again soon, and that we'll hear some updates on the projects that you're working on for the rest of the year. But
Yeah.
it's been absolutely fantastic. And thanks to the fam for hanging out with us and for all of the amazing questions as always. Let me just swing on over and make sure that I'll get my usual updates. So if you are new or if you don't yet realize, we have an entire detailed community page. So swing on over ecamm.com/community. You can sign up for our newsletter. You get to know what's going on with us. You can also win free stuff. We're big fans of giving things away. That's also where you can find our Facebook group and our Discord community, beta testers, our affiliate program, all of the different shows and courses and content that we have available, and everything in between. So it is a really great space. If you haven't been over there yet, ecamm.com/community. And then we have some fun stuff coming up for the rest of the year. So hopefully you will all hang out with us and make sure that you turn all of those notifications on so you don't miss anything. But thank you from all of us here, Chris. We really appreciate it. And we will see everyone else in the next edition of Meet the Ecamm Fam. Sign up below. No show with no guests. So you gotta sign up and join us on a future episode. Be like Chris. Find that link. Grab a time that works for you, and we would love to have everyone else on the show. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Katie.
Chris. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Take care, everybody.